Welcome, everybody, to the Forever Young Women's channel. So happy to have you on here. I'm Judy Seeger, naturopath, and we are going to get into bone loss, osteoporosis, arthritis, and anything else you guys bring up. If you're watching the replay, do put your questions below. I will still answer them as I see them, and that's on the daily. Here's the thing that was my aha moment of the week. I'm watching this TV series called Zero Day with Robert De Niro. Many of you guys may have remembered him from his very famous movie in the 1980s called Raging Bull, where he was a boxer and he was really in shape. You know, Robert De Niro is an icon, right? We know this dude. Well, here he is in the news because he's 80 years old and just had his seventh child. So we know a lot of things are still working in him. Not that kind of show. But what I want to bring up is this. As I'm watching the show, it was an excellent, excellent show. And I saw him doing, he's playing the character of a retired president. And he did an excellent job. The whole show was really good. It was on Netflix. But as he was doing his swimming, and I love swimming. I love swimming laps. I love being in the water and all that kind of stuff. But his swimming, he couldn't barely get his arms out of the water. Now he's 80, right? And this or show just came out, and I'm like, I do not want to look like that. I do not want to look like that in my 80s. I want to be able to get my whole arm out still. And he walks very, very stiff, right? But yet he has seven children. He just had a baby, and his wife or partners are always decades younger than him. So he's got it going on. But it's amazing to me how that's different. So put that together with I'm studying this week. As always, I share with you guys the really excellent researchers. And this, they're young sprouts. I mean, I'm 67 and they're usually in their 40s or so. And this one is Dr. Luisa Nicola. I had to think a minute how her name was. Dr. Luisa Nicola is a brilliant scientist, does everything on Alzheimer's and brain health and all that kind of stuff. And she was saying that as we age, everything gets stiffer, right? And so, what does that have to do with the bone health, osteoporosis, and arthritis? Because they're all saying the exact same thing, but in a different way. And she was sharing that when the oxygen is not flowing, because as you get older, what happens? Your arteries, your heart, everything gets stiffer. I've not heard anybody say it does not get stiffer, but I'm going to be on the hunt. Like, what is the real answer there? But here's the issue. When your heart gets stiffer and you're not getting enough oxygen, you don't get enough in your brain, you certainly don't get enough into your bones, your muscles. And then next thing you know, you're getting inflammation. And it's always because you're not getting enough oxygen moving and blood flow to the area. So when I saw Robert De Niro, and I was like, okay, I don't want to end up like that. I don't want to end up that stiff in my 80s. What do I do? Okay, so Dr. Louisa was saying, all the different exercises and whatnot, which we could talk about. But it's a matter of mindset to understand that as you age, you really have to be aware of what it takes to keep inflammation down and your circulation up. And that means movement, right? She says the number one issue, she was being interviewed by another doctor. And of course, he asked, what is your number one main thing about aging that everyone should be putting as top priority? And she said, exercise. I'm like, I would say there's a few other things going on there. Food, digesting your food, sleep, all of the things that she agrees with. But is it just exercise? It's because we're sedentary, right? And we're not doing the correct exercises. It has to be strength and interval training, right? So good morning, Darlene. Happy to have you on as always. So let's get into the osteoporosis, bone loss, arthritis issues, because it is a major issue. According to Dr. Rose Kenny, she did a major study in Ireland. She's a professor there in Dublin and Trinity Dublin College, and she did a study along with her colleagues, a 10-year study, and I believe it's still ongoing because they are very worried about aging and understanding that the social, economic, mental, all these things affect us as we're aging. But she was talking about, when you have 10 years of study and you're seeing what's working, what's not, weight was definitely an issue, and heart, all those things that we know, healthy aging. But the biggest issue that came out of that study, other than the social mental issue, being lonely and isolated and all that, which we'll talk about in other episodes, is 1 in 4 women are falling. 1 in 4. 1 in 4. That's a lot. And I know because I just fell last year and broke my knee. So I understand that things happen. And it's not because you're necessarily unstable. Things happen. I mean, you can fall anytime. But the issue is that as things like that happen where you fall, osteoporosis happens. And then the next thing the doctors always say, and I actually had a doctor tell me this, oh, you're going to have osteoarthritis. I'm like, no, I'm not. I don't have arthritis now and I will not. And he was kind of like taken aback. I said, no, but don't put that on me. I'm not going to have arthritis. I don't have arthritis and I haven't had arthritis. And stop telling your patients that everybody's going to have arthritis. Stop it. And he was kind of like a functional medicine dude, but so understand that 1 in 4 women are falling, and then they find out they have osteoporosis and all. So there's different things you could do to test it. There's the DEXA scan. There's other types of things you could find out what your bone density is. Make sure you're checking on the regular. It's always important to check. I'm always looking at the newest, latest, greatest, different things that work. Doesn't matter. Just get your bone density checked. But here's the thing, you always know when you have arthritis because it hurts, right? So whether it's in the neck or your shoulders or your hands, typically where we see it first, your wrists, especially in the cold weather. Like here in Florida, we have cold weather this morning. I know it was like 56 this morning, and everybody's bundled up and complaining and all that stuff. I know you guys are laughing because you probably have way, way colder than we do. But that cold a lot of times instigates having more pain, right? So I broke my knee last year, no pain, like zero pain. And I didn't take painkillers either. I know I have a whole protocol for that I use. And so I just will tell you that when there's a flare up, it's not fun. And I've seen it reverse many, many times. In fact, one of the first doctors who ever taught me was Dr. Bernard Jensen, who had a very, very worldwide famous, he was very, very big in the nutrition world back in the day. And he reversed arthritis many, many times in people who are 80s and 90s. And that caught my attention. And then in my own clinic, I saw it as well. Does it take work? Yes, it for sure does. But it works. So first thing first, let's go through some of the basics. And then I'll tell you about some biohacking stuff because I'm going to the biohacking conference. I'll be speaking there coming up the end of February in Miami. And I am super excited to see what's the latest and greatest there. There's some big speakers there that I'm super excited to chat with and share with you guys. But ultimately, it's not just about these shortcut biohacking type of things you can use. You still need your foundation. And I'm very foundational. I always have been as a naturopath. I've never been one to jump on the trend and the latest fad, castor oil for everything. And, you could use this supplement for everything. No, I've never seen that work for my own life. Why would I say that for anybody else? It's just not my jam. I'm really very ethical, and I have to see it in my own self or those close to me so that I could see what's happening and that. And then I bring it to the clinic, and then I make sure that I'm seeing it consistently work 70 to 80% of the time. Those are my gold standards. That's how I've always run my business, and always want to make sure that you know the truth, especially as women, because there's a lot of men out there in these businesses now, and a lot of celebrities jumping on the bandwagon, trying to sell us a lot of garbage supplements. And I will just always say, supplements will not heal you. Supplements alone will not heal you. And I'm an herbalist, and I have tried many herbs for different things. It will just get you by. You still have to have the foundation, and you have to look at the whole picture. Okay. So here we go. First things first is you have to understand that you need to follow an anti-inflammatory diet. Anti-inflammatory diet you could look at the list. I'm going to be including that in my Forever Young Women's Club. That's opening up on March 15th. We're starting that. Darlene, I don't know if I had told you it was starting March 15th. Well, the group calls will start. I mean, you can start at any time. And so I want to make sure that the information that you have is based on not what celebrities are saying. I did a video for TikTok a while back because I saw David Beckham in the news getting into longevity pills. And what does he know about longevity pills? Nothing. Absolutely. He's a great soccer player. Just but no, it's just they jump on these bandwagons because for whatever reason they look to put their money somewhere, but they really don't know what the heck they're talking about. So there are no pills alone. You really have to look at the anti-inflammatory diet, right? And it's just a list. And again, I'll have that. I mean, you can look it up, but when you're in my group, I just make it easy and have it handy for you. But the four top foods, just to get you guys started, number one is potatoes. Number two is tomatoes. Number three is peppers. Number four is eggplant. Those are called nightshades. And that I have found consistently be an issue with women when they have inflammatory conditions like arthritis, like any kind of osteopenia, anything where there's inflammation in their body, fibromyalgia, right? So start with those four foods and eliminate them totally. Like I will get a jar of salsa once a month because I love chips and salsa. Yes, I am really telling you this. I love chips and salsa, so I get organic potato chips, non-GMO, and all this stuff. And then I'll get organic salsa, and that'll last me the whole month. That's it. But for years, I just avoided it. And I'm Hungarian. Hungarians live on potatoes, tomatoes, peppers. Like that's our mainstay in our diet. I know it is in a lot of cultures. I understand that. But as a Central European, that's a big mainstay of our diet. And so I stopped all that, including sweet potatoes. Many people will ask me, what about sweet potatoes? And I will just say, listen, just stay away from it for a good 7 days and then try one of those back in and just see how things go. Typically, you'll see some kind of flare up. Some things doesn't feel good. Something's irritating it. Not always, right? And then you could move on from there after you figured that way of eating. Then you could start saying, okay, let me look at the anti-inflammatory foods. And it's kind of surprising sometimes. Like I forgot how high oxalates are with almonds. And I was doing a lot of almond flour, almond nut butter, almond. And my stomach started getting a little bit irritated. And I have a very sensitive stomach. And I was like, let me try cassava flour. Let me try sunflower butter. Let me try cashew butter yogurt. Like, I just started switching it up and I felt way better. See, it doesn't take much. We've got the options now. It's super, super easy. It's just a matter of paying attention to when you have a flare up of any kind, bone, muscle, joints, anything. Pay attention. It's always your body telling you what to do. Okay. So that's a basic. Another basic foundation I always recommend is magnesium. Magnesium just gets the minerals into your system. Now, if you have sugar cravings or eat a lot of sweets or eat a lot of carbohydrates, the sugar steals the minerals, particularly magnesium. And when it steals the minerals, your body is now in a depleted mode, and it's super important to have magnesium. Now, don't ask me what brand. I don't go into brand. Eventually, maybe there'll be some company that comes out and I endorse it. But at this point, there's very, very few companies I endorse, like a handful, because most of them just are not high quality according to my standards. So I don't go into brands at this point. I just tell you what to look for in your magnesium. So there's many different kinds of magnesium. Magnesium oxide, of course, is to help your bowel movements. Epsom salt has got magnesium sulfate, so you could use that in your bath. But typically like a magnesium glycinate, magnesium malate, I do a little combination. They have like 4 different kinds of magnesium. We're good to go. Or you could get liquid magnesium, or you could get powdered magnesium. There's all different kinds. So Darlene says she loves potatoes and tomatoes. Well, girl, That's your homework for the week. Stay away just from potatoes and your tomatoes. Just stay away from them for the week and let's see what happens, right? So going back to the minerals, when you have a lot of sugar, carbohydrate, it steals from your bones and muscles. And I always call sugar the big stealer. Sugar steals. Like I've been saying that literally for 30 years as a naturopath. And because I had a high sweet tooth and I went grocery shopping this morning before this episode. And I always get myself a little treat, right? So it's usually like a dark chocolate, a high quality. And there's one particular company, it's made with coconut oil and whatnot. And it was almost too sweet. I was like, "Oh, I'm really getting way better." I just don't crave it. I haven't craved it for a very long time. So the coconut oil can satisfy you. Avocados, olive oil, those kind of things can satisfy that sweet craving. Do something to switch over because the sugar will steal. And the older you get, ladies, it gets to be a real problem. I'm not even talking about the weight issue. I'm really focusing on bone and the whole arthritis inflammation. Be very, very careful. I don't recommend it. I don't recommend you not doing anything. I do recommend you doing magnesium. Minerals, you could have, there's liquid minerals, there's all different kinds of minerals you could have. That's fine. But I'm just finding that the magnesium overall, when you're being consistent with it, is one of the main supplements I do recommend on the daily. And vitamin D and K. I'm not sure if it's because the vitamin D helps our hormones. Vitamin K, of course, is for blood clotting and that helps. But the vitamin D for our hormones, and it seems to be helping with the bone and inflammation, arthritis. I just have seen it work consistently. Sometimes you have to up it. Again, I'm not sure if they're, you just. I used to go touring on these companies and where they manufacture this stuff. Now, I don't think I could even get in anymore, but I used to, and I know they don't use quality stuff sometimes. So you have to be very, very careful of the company, the product, and is it pure? Do they have fillers? I've talked about that many, many different times. But vitamin D and K is excellent for that. The other one, as far as making sure you help for, so let's just finish the magnesium, vitamin D. Many women ask, well, what about calcium or a multivitamin? First off, multivitamins are let's say this politely. Never mind. I'm not a polite person on this one. I'm going to call them out. It's just a waste of time and just say, hell to the no. You don't need multivitamins. They don't work. Stop it. Stop with the multivitamins. I just saved you a bunch of money. Now go out and go get yourself a quality supplement that actually works for you. Yeah, multivitamins are a joke. Calcium, on the other hand, you might need a little bit, but typically, if you're having, I'm just trying to think, if you're having like depending on what you eat. So if you're paleo, keto, I've just not seen people in a calcium deficit. I just haven't, and in all my years. But if you want to take calcium, just be careful that you don't get kidney stones. It tends to build up. But my experience is that when you are having high oxalate foods, meaning high inflammatory foods like potato, tomato, peppers, and eggplant, and spinach and kale. Do we need to get into that, ladies? Spinach and kale. Are you hearing me? Spinach and kale. I almost forgot I had my belt today. Yeah, spinach and kale is very high in oxalates, and I get a lot of pushback about it. But I've seen it 100%, like not even below that, 100% in my clinic days and working with women, that when they got rid of their spinach and kale, whether it's in juices, cook, whatever, they all felt better. Every one of them, right? Not only because the fiber is hard to break down, but the spinach and kale binds up the calcium, and it's very high in oxalic acid, which irritates the between your joints, and then you don't have enough synovial fluid in there, and then as that's rubbing, that's where the inflammation happens, and now you have arthritis. Yeah. So be very, very careful with that. Okay. So understand magnesium, yes. Vitamin D and K, yes. Calcium, maybe minimal. Try to get it through your foods. and really pay attention to high oxalate foods. The other one that's super important when you have any kind of osteoporosis or arthritis, any kind of thing, you got to be able to have your protein levels way up higher than what you think you need. I know. I just found this out last year. I thought I was having enough protein because I don't eat a whole lot. I don't have big appetite, never have. I eat, everybody else says I eat like a bird. And I'm like, yeah, that's probably true. I just don't eat a whole lot. But what the trend has been to expose the women to the truth that we need more protein, and I'm saying you also need to absorb your protein, right? So protein smoothies, we could talk about that. Is it pea protein, which I don't think is the right type of protein. I think it's very hard to digest. I think it's more of a carbohydrate. I know for a fact from my friends who do manufacture that protein is used as a cheap protein substitute instead of quality. That's because spirulina took a nosedive. It's very sad. I've been in this 30 years, and spirulina was the gold standard for many, many decades. Spirulina is a blue-green algae. Mostly it was grown in Klamath Lake. But then there was, these different farmers who were having it, but the protection of growing it and being exposed to the environment. So I went here in Florida a couple of years ago to somebody who has a whole organic spirulina farm. I'm like, what? What is that? And I saw how he did. It was a very complex operation, but again, I took he was very generous, and he gave me and my friends a bunch of samples, and all three of us said, don't notice a difference at all. And it was not cheap stuff either. So I cannot promote something. I don't care if you give it to me free by the truckloads. If I don't see it working, I just will not say it works. I'm not going to say what the company is. It doesn't really matter. It's just the spirulina, the quality has really gone downhill. A lot of it comes from China. Pay attention to that. I know Star West Botanicals gets a lot of their herbs from China now. And even the people who live in China don't always take their herbs from China because they know how bad it is. The standards there are really bad. So, I know this from my friends who are from China and who are living here now. And so it's, spirulina. So what do you do? Right? Ultimately, what do you do to help your bones and muscle and keep the arthritis from minimal? So number one is having quality protein. There's some really good protein I'm noticing that are coming out from Ireland, and there's somebody I know here who's got, these are things we talk about in the Forever Young Women's Club, where I really go into brands and making sure it's a good fit for each person that's in there. Like, I don't just say, oh, yeah, this is the one protein everybody should use. No, because there's just a lot of reasons it's not true. Like, we're not machines. We all individual. And so that's important to know. Yeah, and so Darlene says someone told them that whey protein spikes glucose. I don't. So from a physiological point, I don't see how that would happen. I will dig into it. I mean, I go right away over to the glucose goddess. Did you get it from her? From what's her name? Jessica. She's the queen about glucose right now. She's been out there quite a bit. I don't see how that could happen. I've never seen it happen. Protein is very satisfying as a smoothie. So what could be, though, I will say, is if you're using like oat milk, which is a very high carbohydrate milk. I don't really encourage. I like to see women switch up their milk. So, and again, depending on, like, Darlene, you should not be having oat milk at all. Okay. Pay attention, Darlene. No oat milk. Why? Because it's a very high carbohydrate type milk, and it's really not good for you knowing your situation. Okay. So rather have hemp milk, rather have flaxseed milk. Although you got to watch the flaxseed milk. I noticed when I'm in the grocery store, it takes me a long time because I read every label. I watch every new company. I look to see what's going on. I look everything on the label. So it takes me a long time. It's kind of like my excursion for the week. So and I noticed they're starting to mix protein with flax milk. So you have to be careful with that. But an almond milk can be high in oxalates, although, I think it's not that bad if you don't have an inflammatory condition. But hemp milk, flaxseed milk is great. Coconut milk, if you could handle it. I can't. It's a little bit too rich for me. Or coconut milk mixed with almond milk, something like that is good. I found. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, no oatmeal. Right. Well, right, but you have cravings, Darlene. So that's why I recommend switch your oat milk. Just no oatmeal. No. She's like, what? Have you not watched Jessica, the glucose goddess? Go look at her videos and how she recommends starting out the day. So Jessica is all into, she's called the glucose goddess, and she had a young sprout who's just brilliant in how she's presenting the actual facts. And I quote her a lot because she's saying what I've been saying for 30 years, but she has the science behind it, that when you have oatmeal in the morning or you have a lot of oats, and everything seems to be mixed with oats. Oh my God, I try to look for protein bars without oats. Like it takes me like 15 minutes to go through every protein bar, and I think I find one, and then it's mixed with oats. Granola, I don't do granola with oats. I'm looking. Oh, that's with oats. It's like, yeah, no, stay away from oats, especially you, because it's a carbohydrate and grain. I don't recommend a lot of grains for women as we're aging either, because it spikes your glucose, and it does the cortisol dippy doos, blood sugar dippy doos, and just, yeah, no. Yeah, focus on first. Dr. Stacy Sims and Dr. Rhonda Patrick both have said, and I think Dr. Nichols as well now, they're all saying within the first 2 hours of waking up, that's when you should have protein, like really focus on protein. So, like maybe a rice cracker with some sunflower butter, cashew butter, almond butter, those kind of things, or having eggs and cornmeal tortilla, just roll it up and there it is. Have things that are protein. I have my granola free cereal. I'm trying to think what I just made a cassava muffins with cranberries. It was a little on the dry side. So what I do is then I make my avocado pudding, and then I take cashew yogurt and I throw that on my muffin that has now become dry. It's not super dry, but it's just like not moist like with wheat flour. So cassava flour is a little bit different, but boy, did that taste good, right? Mixing that too. Okay. Oh, you know about her and did switch to no oatmeal in the morning. Oh, good for you. Darlene already switched. Yeah. But watch your oatmeal, oat milk, and everything else, Darlene, and see how that goes. Okay. So going back to just to finish up the protein, go watch Dr. Rhonda Patrick, The Science of Protein. I think it's episode 97 on her YouTube channel, and it's excellent. She gives you the formula and why, and all these different things. And I really, really learned a lot watching her. She's another young sprout that is really pushing out there the truth about these myths that we hear all the time that were based on the study of a man's body, not a woman's body. And so finally, all these women are jumping on board and saying, listen, this is what we're really seeing is working for women. I'm like, oh, thank goodness. I'm so glad you guys are saying, because I've been saying that for a long time. But when you have the scientists and all of them are saying the exact same thing, no confusion here, ladies. So I really like that. Okay, so the other part with the and I want to. This is going to go just a few minutes over because I want to talk about a couple of biohacking things that could help for osteoporosis and bone loss of any kind. If you're starting to head down that direction, is making sure you're sleeping well. So the quality of sleep. I am testing something. I just did an interview with the sleep boss Annika Carroll for my new TV channel, which should be coming out sometime in March. And she was saying about a couple of new things that she is finding is helpful sleep. I'm going to also test it out because, as you know, I test everything out first. And we talked about all the different things for sleep. Here's the number one thing you need to know. You've got to get a quality, not less than 7 hours. Like none of the women are saying that under 7 hours works, preferably 7, 8 hours quality. So what happens when you wake up at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, which I do sometimes. I think I have to go pee and I go pee. And then I fall right back to sleep now, right? But if you don't fall back to sleep, that's when you get in trouble. Why? because sleep is the time you rebuild and repair with the proteins that you've had in the day. This is a very important lesson, my friends. Pay attention. It's not what proteins and digesting the proteins during the day is as important as a quality sleep, because that's when your body says, hey, thank you for all that protein. Now I could go to work to bring down the inflammation. Now I could go to work to rebuild and repair the bone structure, the muscle striations. All those things are being worked on while you sleep. And if you don't sleep well, what happens? Your body doesn't have it. It takes time. It takes a long time to people always think, "Oh, yeah, I just did this for a week and I should be good to go." No. No. It takes, especially as we're getting older. I hate that part. When you're younger, it's like, "Bah, bah, bah, bah," and you're like, "Yeah, I just took this vitamin and I just ran, all this miles and I did all this workout and I feel great." Yeah, well, those days are done, sweetheart. Those days are long gone. We have to give ourselves time to rebuild and repair our bodies. So if you're not sleeping quality sleep, and the whole R ring, I asked Annika, what about these devices that check that, test that, and all that? She said, look, you're going to know, you're going to wake up. Did you have a good sleep because you're feeling good, you have energy and all that, or not? Like, you don't need a device to tell you that. So be careful. You don't need the device. You just need to know that that's the best time. So really focus on that. Like I said, I'm going to try a couple of other things, methods that she had, and I'll report back on this channel or for sure in the Forever Young Women's Club. Okay. So the last one I just want to touch on is strength training. This is something that is my biggest weakness. And I have been really focused on it because I have come to realize from all the women doing, I don't argue with science. When women have done studies on thousands and thousands and thousands of women collectively and over decades, I listen because you can't argue with that. And they're all saying the exact same thing, that you got to do some strength training. Now, that start and because we tend to be sedentary, right? But it starts with that as often as you can throughout the day, do your squats because your quadriceps are the biggest muscles that are the most important to help to get the oxygen into your brain and into your bones and muscles and your organs and everything else, right? But here's the thing, it's just a matter of, walking through the house with your weights and doing putting on the YouTube channel with the women who are in their 50s, 60s, or however old you are, and follow them. But so Dr. Louisa Nichols, remember that's my go-to girl for the week. She was saying you got to do it 3 times a week, which I have heard consistently. It's 3 times a week is best. If you could do twice a week, which is what I do, that's okay, she said. But here's what they're finding. This blew my mind, and I know it's going to blow your mind. If you do strength training on the regular, like 3 times a week, and you do it for 20 minutes, and you do a real strength training where you're really building muscle mass, not just lifting weights for the sake of lifting weights, like my mother with her little 1 pound weights, and she just sits there watching TV and just, lifting her as a mother. Can you please do a little bit more? Oh no, this is fine. It's helping my shoulder. Okay, fine, whatever. She's 91. I'm not going to argue with her. But Dr. Louisa was saying you got to do it where you're feeling the burn. Like you're actually like lifting 5 pounds, 10 pounds, 20 pounds, whatever it is, and you're feeling that burn. That's how you build your muscle mass. But what the studies are showing is that women are doing 3 times a week, 20 minutes at a time, strength training, 20 minutes at a time, have actually created and made their heart muscle, which remember I said gets stiffer as you get older, have made it so that now it has increased the suppleness and has actually reversed the stiffness to that of 20 years younger. And so here you are 50 years old doing strength training and you have a 50-year-old heart. They have shown in the studies that it's 20 years younger. The heart is showing up to be 20 years younger. Like that. So 50-year-old, and here you have a heart of a 30-year-old. I want that. I want a 30-year-old heart. Well, no, I'm 67. So So I want a 47-year-old heart, right? And it's hard. It's not easy to do in strength training. So I'm doing something that I'm sharing with you that is working really, really well. And I'm going to try to get people like Dr. Louisa on my channel and ask them this question because I have not heard anybody say that it is not good. But I have heard Dr. Rhonda Patrick say it helps for your blood sugar overall. So I'm like, okay, I'm listening. And that is to do strength training, like exercise snacks throughout the day. She says every 45 minutes. Well, I can't do every 45 minutes. It's a little bit too much for me. But when you get up to do something like after 45 minutes to an hour, you're watching a movie, you're sitting there reading a book, it's time to get up and move in a way that's increasing the strength. So not just, oh yeah, I'm going to do some stretches, I'm going to move my arms, great, I'm going to do some deep breathing. No, you've got to actually do like 10 squats, 20 squats, do some push-ups, do some sit-ups, do standing sit-ups, do sitting sit-ups. There's all these different really cool things that you do, and then you do it with weights to increase the strength, makes a big difference. And I'm like, oh. So I don't have weights at home because I travel so much. So I took big bottles of water and they're 8 pounds each. And I walk through the house and I'm doing my different types of exercises. So that is another one that is super, super important. All right. So that is all the different things that I have found to help with osteoporosis. And so so reason I say bone loss is like the beginning. It's like osteopenia. It's where it just your body's starting to lose bone, and that is typically from having too much carbs, too much grains, too much sugar, and having too much high oxalate foods, right? So you want to reverse that, and that's a matter of staying away from that stuff and satisfying your body by getting the proteins in and digesting your proteins, right? See that? The one biohacking system that I absolutely love. Did I have it here? I did. It's called the red light therapy, and everybody is seeing the red light therapy masks. And I'm like, listen, I use the mask simply because I use it because of my thyroid, and I'm always paying attention to keeping the thyroid happy. So I use it. I use the collar for that. But here's the red light that I use that has, you see that? Yeah. So it has the red lights here. But the reason I like this is because you could wrap it anywhere. So if you have shoulder pain, joint pain, hip pain, back pain, whatever, you could use the red light to get the circulation going better. And now, caveat on that. If it is an acute inflammation, like I know some of you will be watching the replay on this, be careful because if it's an acute inflammation, then what could happen, like all of a sudden your arthritis flares up, your body is in a heat mode and you need to bring that down. Then you could do, your ice packs or you could do some hydrotherapy in the shower. But once that's gone and it's just like, okay, I'm just like feeling pain all the time, it's in a chronic state, then you could use the red light therapy and wrap it and then keep it on for 20 to 30 minutes. I have used this consistently over the years. I used to have a little mini sauna. I used to put my people in there and I put the red light in there. But now this is really handy for traveling and just it's convenient because you're sitting there watching your movie, reading a book, and then you could wrap this around and it's super easy for your knees, your hip, your back, all that kind of stuff. Super easy. And it doesn't throw out heat. True, you could have red light that throws out heat, but you don't want the heat. You don't need the heat. You need the power of the red light to go in there and stimulate the area so the cells are like, oh, I get to work and not be all stuck together and be in an inflamed state. You want it to unblock. Okay, that's the issue. So doesn't matter what the pain is, how can I say, your cells start to go together and stick together and just go to that area because your body's trying to go in there and fight the inflammation. So I've seen this under microscopes all the time. where it goes in and it's trying to bring that inflammation down. So you need to give it the tools, right? So yes, the magnesium can help. Yes, the anti-inflammatory foods, all these different things can help. But sometimes you need to like bring that pain down, like now, girl, like it's hurting, right? So of course, ice, yes, but you can't keep ice on it all the time. So you need to heal it. And so by giving it the red light is another way that quickly goes in there and starts working it. Do you have to do it regularly? Yes. I mean, that's why I have mine. I use this regularly. Like if I go for a 5 mile walk instead of a 3 mile walk, which is usually what I do on the weekend, I'm sore. My that one knee is still healing. So I just put the red light on and bingo, when I get up, it's fine, right? You give it that extra help in the healing process. Okay, guys, so thank you so much for watching. Put your questions below. Love to hear from you. And do look to see if the Forever Young Women's Club is for you. If you have any questions, I'm always going to look at your comments and what you're concerned about and help you in any way I can. And we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks for watching.